Sandra here from Create in Spain, and today I wanted to discuss purchasing files, what to look out for and mistakes to avoid. Now, the file that you can see in front of you now is one from Creative Fabrica. Now, let me make this plain. I am not criticizing the designer of the file. I just wanted an example to show you. So this is a file which is supposed to be a paper cutout with two layers. There is another layer which I haven't bothered to import, which is just a basic back for it so that you can have a cutout on top of a plain piece. The reason I'm making this video is because when I downloaded some files from Creative Fabrica, I just downloaded some that I like the look of and I put them in a file, and that was that. And when I was looking for something to cut out, I came across this one. I thought, oh yes, that would do nicely. That would be great for what I had in mind, which was indeed a shaker. So do not make the same mistake I did. When I originally looked at the file, I did not take note of the size of the design. I generally design my own, and therefore I know what size, what purpose, whatever I'm using it for. And I didn't take any notice. And this particular design makes a globe of approximately 15 centimeters wide. If I click on this, we can see the size in shortcuts like here, 15 by 17.34. Now, there is no way I'm going to be making a shaker that big. I would want to make it a lot smaller. If you look particularly at the snowflake here, it's barely got anything connecting it to the outside ring. This is fine at this size. I grant you, some people still wouldn't find it an easy thing to cut out, particularly if you're using a thicker paper or one that doesn't cut very easily, or if your blade is a little blunt, etc., etc. I've actually cut this out with my laser, and it is still only just about hanging on by a thread on these areas here. And so if you were going to cut it out with a blade, even at this size, yeah, you could have some fun and games with it falling to pieces on you. If you are trying to get off the mat, for example, and it sticks to the mat a little bit too well, you could end up tearing something. So what I would suggest is, when you're looking at files to purchase or to download, take a note of what they are designed for, whether it's paper, wood, vinyl, whatever. Whether it is, for example, just supposed to be a print and cut and you're not supposed to cut out all the intricate little details. Whether you are making a design of 15 centimeters of one of 6.5 centimeters. All those things will have a bearing on how easy it is or how hard it is for you to cut out the file at the end of the day. So from my point of view, this wouldn't actually do what I wanted it to do. There's nothing actually wrong with the file. So if you happen to have downloaded something like this and you want to use it for another purpose, how can you make it better? Well, I discovered on this particular file that if you break it apart, in order to try and put an offset on things to make them thicker, for example, it's going to be a really horrific thing to try and do. There's too many little pieces, not joined in a way that makes it easy to do that. But there is a way that you can make it attach to this edge a lot easier. Here we go. Going to bring along this ring. So what I did was I made a ring slightly smaller than the 15, and then I added another offset to it. So if I pick this ring up and I put it over here, you can see, if I make that transparent, you'll be able to see it a bit better, that it is slightly further in now than the original ring. So what you'd want to do is to select it, make sure that it is centered left to right, which actually it is, and that it is centered top to bottom, which I think it could possibly go down a fraction. That's probably a bit too much. Okay, let's move that up just the tiniest bit. I think that is probably about as near as it's going to be. And then then you can select the entire lot and go to Path and Union. And that has now enabled a better hanging on of this snowflake on the left hand side. There we go. You can see that it's better attached, as is the star and the other items which are attached to it. Isn't taking too much away from the delicacy of the actual design, but it's making sure that things are actually going to cut out. So that is one way that you can do it. But my advice, as I said, is to make sure that you know what it's meant for and indeed the size of the file. And what I suggest you do is you make a physical note of that in the file itself, because most of the designs don't end up with that kind of information in the file. You'll get it on the website page, but not in the file itself. Creative Fabrica is where I got this one, and this one did have the size on it. It's just that I wasn't taking notice of it when I downloaded it. If I take this down to what I originally wanted, which was 6.5 centimeters, that's the actual size. As you can see, this is a pretty involved cut. I'm fairly sure I could do it on my laser now, but I'm not sure I would want to cut it at that size on my normal cutting machine, unless I was cutting it from vinyl, in which case it would be okay. Other than that, I think at 6.5 centimeters, I'd be setting myself up for failure. And we all know we don't really like failure a great deal, so it's much better to avoid it if at all possible. The other thing that I will mention is, if you are by any chance cutting things like this out on a laser, get yourself a very smooth piece of glass. It could be, for example, a glass cutting board, and then apply some tack it over and over onto it. So you will end up with a tacky glass board. That way you can put your paper on the board and you can laser cut it. At a paper setting, it's not going to affect the glass itself, and it will stop the little pieces from lifting up, blowing around, and then landing on an area that you haven't yet cut, and then making your cut go wrong. But with a laser, with the air system as well, sometimes bits will fly around if they're very small ones, and that stops that problem. Okay, that is it for today. I will see you again soon. Take care now.